Hi everyone, this is Raghav. I'm your host, and thanks for joining in for this live show. We have around more than 100 people have been registered, and 50 odd people are in waiting in queue. However, we cannot accommodate more than 100 people for this live session because we see accommodation issues over here. However, again, thanks for joining in, and we're going to start with now with our presentation. That what is the purpose of this live session? I have been seeing in the past few weeks and months that a lot of you people are approaching me and other fellow Indians to see what are the career opportunities in Ireland and how you could accelerate your career within Ireland after completing your masters. Very well said. What we understand is that we all are here in Ireland to accelerate our career. But most of the times we make the same mistakes that we shouldn't be doing in. We do the same mistakes and we keep on repeating it. And at the time when we reach out at the last, that when we are approaching the jobs, we are approaching for the interviews, we realize quite late that these have been mistakes that we have been doing in. And when we realize, it's very late. So the all purpose of this live show is that to make you familiarize with this market, that what is this market all about, what are mistakes that we do, how we would stop them, and how we are going to get the jobs that we desired for and for the purpose for which we came here. Okay, we are set to go now. But just before I start, I would like to mention two things over here. First thing is, I'm not a YouTuber, so there may be some technological problems in this live show. The other thing is, the live streaming is not actually live. There is a time lag of 30 seconds between what is relayed and what is displayed. So please bear with me when I would be sharing you with my slides. It may be possible that I would be talking about some other slides and you would be getting a different slides to show up on your screen. Anyways, thank you so much to joining in. We are formally starting our PowerPoint presentation, and I'll be going through with the slides with the key agenda that I would be discussing in. So I'm sharing you my slides. Please tune in. Okay, so the topic for today's show is the key to get jobs after masters in Ireland. And what we are going to discuss in this show is we are going to talk about these key agenda items, and these agenda items will include job economics and Irish way of hiring. We are going to discuss about that, the whole macroeconomic situation in Ireland, how the economics of job works in Ireland, and what is the Irish way of hiring. How do we see that the Irish hiring is different from Indian markets? It's a hell lot of difference between the two markets, and we are going to understand that what is the difference between hiring in India and hiring in Ireland. That is the first key topic. The second key topic we have is the hiring, because most of the times when we come to Ireland, we start for looking for jobs, we have two things in mind. Either we'll go for big jobs, big consultancies, companies like Big Four, KPMG, PwC, or Deloitte, KPMG, whatever it is, be it Microsoft, the top technology companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, or Boston small and medium enterprise, small companies or medium companies which are not that big, like Argo, Finergo, Emion. There are many other companies which are hub to Dublin, to Ireland, but these are not as big as Google or the big four companies like Deloitte, PwC, etc. So how the hiring between the big four companies and SMEs differ, because there's a hell lot of difference between the hiring processes of these two set of industries or companies between big four and SMEs. So one has to be very much vigilant in terms of applying to a big four and applying to SME. That includes hiring process, resume process, approaching process, interview process. There are a hell lot of difference between these two. So the second topic is we are going to discuss about hiring in big four versus SMEs. And then we'll come to one of our core topics, that when a recruiter talks to us, what is there in recruiter's mind? Unless and until we understand this, what he's trying to achieve from us, we will never be able to sail into the interview. This is the key important part. We need to understand from the recruiter's mind what is going there into his mind and try to behave accordingly so that we appears to be right fit for that job. And then I'll talk about what makes or breaks a candidate. We have lots and lots of notions about how to make an interview, what are we supposed to do during the interview, what are the things that employers look for, what are the things recruiters look for, and how does candidate behaves. And these are separate things. But in the Irish way of hiring, the decision makers, or I would say the key points that people base on the decisions, are completely different. So we'll talk about certain points that makes or breaks a candidate. Then we'll talk about our fifth point, that is, the unimportant things are most important things. Yes, you would be a little bit surprised with this topic, that how come unimportant things are most important things in Irish way of hiring. But that's true, and I'm going to unveil this unimportant things and most important things. And then we'll delve into our seventh topic, that is networking. Most of the times we make the mistakes that we do the standard ways of networking that everybody does. And this is a big spoiler to everyone, because any candidate who is trying the same thing to do with others, you need to understand that everyone is doing the same thing than the person with whom you are trying to make a network. Will get us a lot of boredom, that why everyone is coming to me like this. This is something not he has been looked for. So this is the point that I would like to put over here. And then I've got a lot of questions about visa sponsorship. I've got questions in Facebook and emails that you guys are looking for visa sponsorship. People, companies are not ready to give sponsorships, and about the CSEP, that is critical skill employment permit. What are the issues with that? And why companies resist to give critical skills? What is the problem with the companies? They are ready to give you a job offer, but they are not ready to give you critical skills. And perhaps that is the reason they are asking you that if you're stamp 4, we'll give you a job. If you're not stamp 4, or if you don't hold critical skill work permit, then we can't offer you that. So we'll talk about these things. Just before we start, I'll give you a brief introduction about myself. Who am I? Okay, my name is Raghav Dikshit, and I'm a Trinity MBA 2018. I have 10 years of experience in companies like DXC Technologies, which is formerly known as Computer Science Corporation. I've been with British Telecom, HCL, and a few other companies. Currently, I'm working as a senior manager in Storm Technologies, which is one of the large technology service provider based of Dublin. Its customers include Facebook, Irish Rail, Dublin Bus, AIB, Bank of Ireland, and many more. So here I would like to talk about myself, that when I was in your shoes, I would say just last year, same 2018, yes, 2018, I had a repeated failure history. And this failure history got converted into successful history when I start doing the things right. So this is the purpose of this live show, that the mistakes that I did, you should not be doing that. It really doesn't matter how talented you are, how competent you are within the job market, or what kind of great networking skills you have. But you what need to understand, you have to be consistent with your performance. Most of the times you give up between your job search, your job hurdle. You get you get knocked down by companies. People say you are not good for nothing. You stop doing the things. And there are a lot many, because job hunting for job is itself a full-time job. It's not an easy thing. I have a series of failure histories. If I would talk about myself, starting from 28th of April last year, I started applying for jobs. I applied for nearly, I don't remember the count, but it should be more than 300 applications that I have made on portals, mainly LinkedIn. The other portals such as Indeed, Irish Jobs did not work out for me, because I could not get the analytics out of it. And most important, LinkedIn was very much, I would say, it favored me a lot and it helped me. So in terms of failure histories, I had 300 applications, majority of which, as you see, no response. People used to get the applications, companies used to get applications, and eventually I did not used to get any response out of it. Then I realized what is the mistake I'm making, it why I'm not getting a response. I made some changes, I made some corrective actions, and finally I started getting interview calls. So starting from 28th of April till the second week of July, I got interviewed around 35 times for around 21 companies, 21 different companies. And surprisingly, I got 14 back-to-back rejections. And this was a time, I would say, very, I would say, very low time, and I was at a verge of giving up, that what's, maybe I'm not fit for this market, or despite having a history of working with such a big companies, and being studied in Trinity MBA, why I'm getting so many back-to-back rejections. And to my surprise, one of my great friend who was doing the MBA itself, and he came up, and he just uploaded a video, a link to a video that shows that after all failure that success comes. I don't remember the exact lines of that video, but that was a game changer in my job hunt. And post that, I looked for all the corrective things that I was supposed to do, and that was a turnaround in my history. After getting 14 back-to-back rejections, I had so much of the learning between those rejections, that I knew that what I have not to do in order to get a rejection, and what I have to do to get a successful acceptance offer. So that successful history includes job offers that companies included like Finergo, Storm Technologies, ENY, Johnsons and Johnsons, Capita, Irish Rail, many other companies. I was one of the earliest job holder within Trinity. I got 7 job offers by the second week of July, and I was earliest, and I was the highest job holder, and maybe one of the highest paid individual in Trinity MBA 2018. So I'll tell you about myself, that what I do, and perhaps the good things that I did and bad things that I did. You may be able to take some lessons from it, and maybe you will be able to replicate the good things, and maybe you'll get something for which you have really come up in Dublin or Ireland. So that's the whole purpose. We'll move on to the next slide now. Okay, so we will just talk about the market summary at the moment. That what is the market summary? What is the macroeconomics? If we talk about the whole job economics, what is the total capacity of the market? How many people are coming in each year this market, and how is the market is able to absorb all the people who are coming into the market? That's the thing we are going to look for. So I would see is day by day, the number of people, especially I will talk about South Asian regions, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal. People from South Asian region are touching a record high day by day. If we talk about 2013 to 2018, or just about the January intake of 2019, there has been tremendous increase, and such an increase has been notably in various newspapers like Irish Times as well. So I would see that if we talk about the total job market, as per ENY report, that's the latest report they have released in December 2018, and Ireland is creating 57,000 jobs each year, and it will keep on creating until 2022. However, out of these 57,000 jobs, these are for all sort of jobs, all sort of industries, including laterals, freshers, etc. And the GDP is growing at the rate of 3.84. It has little bit come down from 2017, and actually 2017 was a very booming year where the GDP was 7.84. But even the 3.84 GDP is quite big, I would say. It's good. Now coming back to people who come here to Ireland to study and to get jobs over here. According to Irish Times, we have 44,000 new entrants that begin the higher education. That is the third level education that we all are doing masters. They have joined last year, and that is a total of 70,000 graduate people that has been coming out each year from across the Ireland. These figures do not actually correlate with us as Indians. We do not have actual figures about Indian people, but this is for sure that India has been one of the biggest democracy and biggest demography, rather, I would say, who is sending people, or Indians are coming in large numbers from each year, and these numbers are reaching us a record high in 2018, 17, as well as in 19. With the top choices of people includes data analytics, digital marketing, and management. We don't have official figures, but yes, we don't have official figures, but yes, the problem with all is that we come here to study, then we go on stamp 1G that allow us to work for 2 years back to back. But the problem is we do not get the critical skills work permit. Critical skills work permit is a completely different thing, I would say, because if you are on a critical skills, then definitely you are able to bring up your family on immediate basis. It has got various I would say support in terms of permanent residencies and other things, but not all jobs provide you with critical skills. Many times company is able to give you a job based on your 1G. 1G is a stamp that gives you 2 years work visa to work in Ireland. But after this 1G is over, after 2 years, you have to go back home, which nobody likes. So in order to do not have to have the situation that after your 2G, after your 1G is over, you have to go back to India, you try to be into two of the things. One is the either general employment permit or critical skill employment permit. Usually companies have the issues of sponsoring you, and we are going to discuss more about this, that why various companies do not want to sponsor you, especially SMEs companies do not sponsor. However, the big companies like Google, Facebook, or big four like PwC, Deloitte, or KPMG, these do not have such issues in providing the critical skills work permit if you fall into that category. Finance usually does not come into that category, but yes, we are going to discuss about these, about why companies do sponsor or do not sponsor on critical skills. We'll talk about in the last slide, which we are discussing, which we I'm going to discuss at the end. So we are going to move on to the next slide. The next slide is I would say this is an important series in this slide, where we are going to talk about the Irish way of hiring. That we have been into this notion that we worked in India, we didn't work, but we know how the hiring is made in India. And we jump back to Ireland here, we finish up our studies, and then we think that we are going to get the jobs, and we started applying to those jobs. We start giving the interviews to the jobs, keeping that in mind. The same thing that has happened in India is going to happen over here. This is one of the most wrong, I would say, assumptions people have. Irish market is a completely different market. Most of the times, even including myself, I understood the Irish market after 2 months. After 2 months of failure, when I had 14 back-to-back job rejections, then I understood the Irish market, that how the Irish market works. Irish market works completely different way. What do you do in India? You go to naukri.com, you go to any other portal, shine.com, something, you start keep on applying. The one of the key things I would tell you about Irish way of hiring is more than 50% of the job, and I'm going to be literal here, more than 50% of jobs, they remain unadvertised. They do not even go into the market. What happens with these jobs? I'll tell you, the hiring is done in such a way that if I'm working in a company, my peer, my boss, or someone who has a requirement in his team is going to come to me, or it will post it into the internal portal that we have this opening and you can submit the referrals. The people who provide the referrals are giving the first priority. These referrals could be official through the intranet portal of the companies, or these referrals could be, I would say, just a verbal referrals. I know someone who's my peer. I will say that, okay, you need a business analyst. I have a guy for whom I can vouch for. He's a great guy. Just go and interview him. No matter 1000 applications you have in your mailbox, you are not going to look at them. You are just going to look at them, the person that I have referred. And this is the Irish way of hiring. They go to the job portals only at the end. If you are seeing at the job in the LinkedIn, so it probably means that it is done with all level of unadvertising on all these things. The other thing is, most of the times we see, when we prepare for a job, we prepare for all the questions, technical questions, HR questions. We see about what could be asked. We try to present good and all these things. These are all this these all these things are called as competency based things. However, in Irish way of hiring, competency is rated second. It's good if you are competent, but the kind of jobs that we are going to do after doing masters is something which is have common competency. For example, if you have done management in international business, or you have done MBA, or you have done data analytics, whatever you have done, this is not a very niche field. if there's a person who's done management and there's other person who's also done in management, so in that case it is very difficult to measure the competency between the two. These competencies would be very much subjective, depend on person to person who's taking the interview. But most of the times, Irish people, if you'd say, the psychology of Irish people is something like that. They put greater emphasis on knowing a candidate. For example, I'm a hiring manager and I know a person who knows a person who is coming for an interview. Or I know a person, either he's my neighbor or he's in within my school or some professor under whom I have studied in my bachelor's or postgraduate. He has referred someone and the person can vouch for. So I have two people, one extremely talented, good, I'm liking him. The other person for which I know someone and that person is able to vouch for the candidate that this candidate is good, then an Irishman is going to choose the other candidate. It is some this is, and this is how it happens. They put a great emphasis on relationship, knowing people and vouching for people. So if this happens, this is the biggest plus in any of the hirings. The second thing is in terms of Irish way of hiring, whatever you are putting in on your CV in India, in terms of hiring, what does a hiring manager does? He goes through your CV, look at the things, what are the things are there into CV. He start pinpointing the things and the keywords that you have mentioned in the CV. He tried to check those things, that whatever things you have put in your CV or resume, you really actually knows about them, or you're bluffing on your resume or something. But in Ireland, it rarely happens. I have rarely seen in all of my history of interviews that a person is cross checking my resume whether I know something or not. Whatever you're going to put on the resume, they are going to trust it. They are going to keep it that, okay, you must be knowing it. That is fine. They may be asking some of the questions, but these are general part of that standard interview procedures. But without any intention to check back whether when you have put this something, do you actually know this about or something, or they are very trustworthy. They are trustworthy and they trust people. They go by the face value. If you have said yes, it means yes. Next, except for finance and banking sectors, there is no intensive background check. In India, when we go to any of the jobs, they go for last two previous job, they send emails, they get the salary slips, they get all these sort of things. What is your roles and responsibilities, what is your salary, what is the breakup of your salary and all that. So here, this is not a culture in Ireland. For finance and banking jobs, they are subjected to scrutiny depending upon what is the government guidelines and the company policies. But except for finance and banking, they ask for referrals. They just ask for referrals. Some of the companies like Dell, they may also ask for some of the papers from your back company, but they rarely go and do a background check. Next is about the culture and socializing. If your interviewer name is O'Toole, O'Brien, Fitzgerald, Malloy, or whatever it is, that is a typical Irish surname. If you check about your who's going to take your interview, and if the person is an Irishman with all these surnames or something, then it is a great possibility that he would focus more about culture and socializing. He would not ask you questions about culture and other things, but he would like to note down those things, that whether you are culturally fit. Because one of the problems, especially for people who are looking for management, who do management in Ireland and look for managerial roles, especially I'm emphasizing on this managerial roles. If you are looking for managerial roles, focus would be more on your culture and socializing with the team rather than what you have learned in management. However, on the contrary, if you talk about the technical roles like data analytics or digital marketing or maybe some coding level job, this may be given a second priority. But yes, culture and socializing will be given a priority, because in the companies when you would work for, you'll know that you would have Christmas parties, you would have St. Patrick's Day parties, you would have the company day party, you would have rewards and recognitions, you would have team outing, you would have mountaineering camps, some other camps. So every other day you would find that some way of socializing is organized by, you would have yoga camps, you have cake making day where all the team will make cakes, and you have to be a pastry chef, or there are many things as socializing events. So typically, you unlike in India, where we are focused to work 9 hours a day, typically, or maybe even more, here it is not like that. They give a good balance of life with in the company working and outside the company working. So they give us special, I would say, attention on culture and socializing. And so that's the difference between management roles and non-management roles. So we'll talk more about in the next slides. And then many times we think in India, we see, if we have done a degree, for example an MBA or something, then it itself is enough. We go with the MBA degree, we show the MBA degree. If we are from a good college, IIM, SIITs, of we show them a degree, and that is enough. In Ireland, it's a little bit dicey. If you are from good college, it's okay, it's just okay, but you need to be accredited with something. You need to have some accreditations, some certifications or something. If you have some of these, then you are going to distinguish yourself with others. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, many times I have got questions on Facebooks and emails about the college role. People come and ask about, I'm going to this college and how this college is going to help me in getting a job. So I'm going to say that college role is different for graduate roles. Graduate roles are the fresher roles that companies take, and the other roles are lateral roles, which are for experienced candidates. If you are an experienced candidate, then college role is secondary, or maybe I would say tertiary. It doesn't have that much role. The more role is about your competency, how much is your knowledge, how much is your attitude, what is your networking, and how well you do the interviews. However, for fresh graduate roles, they don't have all these things. You don't have any experience, you don't have any background, and if you're new to Ireland, you probably don't know anyone. So they don't have any measures to check. So in the Irish way of hiring, they look for two things. First, what is your grades? Grades are very important to them. And the second, what is your college? And there are companies in Ireland that typically make the algorithm, the hiring algorithm, in such a way that if you are from a university college or better college, which according to their, I would say, their mind is a good college, so they put the ranking of the college and they give preferences for those people who come from that college. So this is all about the Irish way of hiring. And next we are going to talk about the hiring difference between the big four and SMEs. So when I talk about big four, it's not just about big four, it's just about big four and the big technology companies like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and other big companies, Accenture, and all. Big four is just a key term that I have used. And so we'll talk about big four and SMEs, how they are different. They are different on, I would say, 6 7 points, and I'm going to discuss about these. So the first thing is the key focus in big four and key focus in SMEs. Big four is a large organization. They have multiples of people. Maybe if you talk about Accenture has 2200 people, or maybe now by 2019 they may have 2500 people in Ireland. People who are from India may be thinking that just 2500 people in a company like Accenture, 2500 people is in my Gurgaon office or my Bangalore office. But Ireland is not India. So mm, Accenture is either the top company who has hired most of the people in terms of manpower, or maybe in the first five, but not after five. So they have hired 2500 people. It is their strength in Ireland. So the key focus, because they are large companies, the key focus is the culture. And one of the thing is, because they have large number of people in Ireland and their presence is across the globe, so they often move people from one country to the other, or sometimes for various occasions they move people from one location to the other. So they put a key focus on culture, whereas small and medium enterprise, they focus on competency, because they do not have that big of business. So all they want is, if there's a big company and a wrong hiring is done, it's fine, they can move you into other places. There are so many places. If someone is not good in management, he could be sent in process management, or maybe he could send in quality management, or he could send in operations management. So somewhere or the other they could fix it. So culture is a key here, but this may not be a issue with a with a company that is termed an SME, because they don't have that many departments. Operation manager could be the quality manager, could be the process manager, and could be the project manager. So they don't have these kind of departments, because the company may not be that big, maybe 100 people company. So they would focus on competency. They would just check that this person has got the right skills to do that job or not. So that's the one difference. Second difference is in terms of salaries, because it's a big company, so they always have a range. They are going to give you good salary. There's no doubt about it. Salaries in big fours and good companies. I would exclude companies like product based companies like Facebook or Google. But for other companies, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, and all these companies, salaries are usually good, they are adequate, but they remains within a range. If you are interviewed for a job and this job has a budget, so it would remain within the budget. Do not try to negotiate going beyond the budget, no matter what was your previous salary. And just to make a note, the salaries in Ireland is just not dependent on your previous salary. This is unlike India. In India, your next salary is dependent upon your previous salary. In Ireland, the next salary is not dependent on previous salary. Whereas in SMEs, even if they have provided you a budget, you can go beyond that budget. If you are good, if you are competent, if you have multiple offers in hand, you can talk to them upfront. You can tell them that this is not I'm looking for, and no matter your budget is between 60 to 70K, but I'm looking for 80K because this is what I've got, and I'm looking for more. So these kind of out of range salaries are provided by SMEs, because they are looking for exactly the role which they want to have you worked on. Next is the work. In terms of work culture or work, actually, for Big Four, the work is usually adequate. It's not rush about the work, and you are just a cog of a wheel. That's a whole machine system, and you are just small part of machine system doing the same things again and again, and the workload is not that big. And even if you go for leaves, you go out for a week too, it doesn't matter. Someone else pops into your role and works accordingly. However, for SMEs, you are the machine itself. So see the difference. You are the part of the machine in big firms, and in small SMEs, you are the machine itself. It would be difficult to get leaves. It would be difficult to move out of a role. It would be difficult to move into other departments because they would have their own challenges. And by chance, if you are sick, you are out of the company for a week for some reasons, the work will stop. Somebody, you have to make arrangements that somebody could replace you. Otherwise, it would just hold on. It would not work. Next is what you get. If you are looking for a big four, then you are going to get a big brand name. This is what you are going to get. You are going to get a large number of people in your network. So big brand, good networking opportunities, fancy parties, maybe out of country travel, all these you are going to get. What are you going to get in SMEs? And I would like to focus for those people who are looking for a career switch. For example, they are looking for, they have been doing coding, or they are doing development or testing, or they are from technology background, but they want to move into management like project managers, or they want to be into operations manager or supply chain management or whatever. So that is, or they are doing management here and they want to switch careers and move on to the next level. So if you want to move into next level, you have to have a practical learning. So in SMEs, you will get the learning out of it, and it would be a great learning. Eventually, if you get in terms of career search, you get a job in a big firm. Even if you get a job in a big four, after spending 2 years, you may not be have that much of learning that would sail you through for the rest of your career, because you do a small level of work within rotate yourself within the same work. Whereas in small and medium enterprise, if you are looking for career change and if you've got a managerial roles from a development role in previous job, you move into managerial role and you're working there, then it will give you a great learning because they would make you work very hard. There are a few other important differences between big four and SMEs that are I would say hiring process and sponsorship. So hiring processes usually in Big Four is very stereotyped. You'll get a recruiter, then you'll get I would say your boss who's actually going to do the hiring. When he is going to take your interview, then he is going to have a peer. Then peer will, after having all this discussions between interviews between your boss and his boss peer, then he will be sent to his boss or maybe director of the company, and then finally you will have an HR round. So it's a multiple hierarchy based interviews, and it you may get at least 2 weeks of difference between each process, because I would see there was a company, I interviewed in May, and the whole process got finished in September, when I was already started with 2 months of my company, or already in my existing company. So because what happens after each interview, they take a pause for two weeks. Sometimes the hiring manager is here, some hiring manager is not there. Sometimes there is some position is on delay or something. So all these things, all these delays happens in Big Four. In SMEs, usually the decision process is quick, and they give you quick results. They don't take for 2 weeks of time or something. That there are times that when you'll come back from the interview, by the time you reach home, you get the results. It is also possible, because I've seen that. In terms of sponsorship, the last thing which I want to talk about, sponsorship, Big Four, very easy. You don't even have to discuss when you are going to go for the interview. Neither they may ask you. For example, in EY, the first thing they asked me about is about sponsorship. So they may ask you, they may not ask you, but sponsorship has never been an issue. Companies like EY, Deloitte, PwC, Accenture, or you talk about Microsoft, Google, whatever. So these companies, there's no problem. Workday, these problem, there's no problem with the sponsorship. They would give you sponsorship by default. And if you falls under the category of critical skills, they would give you critical skill work permit. Otherwise, maybe general employment permit, work permit, or whatever. In terms of SMEs, they may be hesitant in giving you a sponsorship or critical skill work permit. Despite you being great for the job, just a issue of work permit may give you I would say, a rejection from the job, because critical skill work permit has an issue that only 50% of the workforce could be sponsored for a visa. So if there's a cap of 50%, they try to keep it like 30% only, so that they would keep the rest of 20% as a contingency. So they don't want to give those visas unless they have got a candidate, they have got a role for which they don't have a candidate, they couldn't find a candidate. So only those cases they try to sponsor a person. If with the same skill, with the same skill set, with same knowledge, same competency, you go over the interview and for which two other local people are there, then definitely they are going to give the jobs to local. They are never going to sponsor you in those cases. However, this differentiation, big company will not make this differentiation. All right. So next, we come to another important topic of this session, and this includes inside the recruiter's mind. What does the recruiter think when he's talking to you? What is he planning? What is trying to extract out of you? So all you need to understand this thing, because many times by the time we realize what recruiter is looking for, we have already got a rejection 3, 4, or 5 times. Only then we understand that, okay, this was a problem within my CV. So I would say one of the key things that recruiters has in mind is that he want to extract all the information, even those information that you're trying to hide from him, or he would like to get you from toe to bottom, that what is there. He would like to understand what is your behavior, and especially about your stress points, because most of the times, I'm talking about the managerial roles. If you're done with management and we're looking for managerial roles, or even the business analyst where there's a customer facing role, everywhere where there's a customer facing role, he is going to check about your stress points. And I'll tell you how he is going to do all this, but he's going to check about your behavior. He wants to check about your stress points. And the important thing is he would like to say how you gel out with the company and the team, and whether your behaviors matches with your boss, within whose team you are going to work. And how he's going to do that, he has some specific questions. He's going to ask you about your previous team, and always be prepared for it. About your team, that what was your team all about, how large was your team. He would talk about what were the people within the team, whether it was cross-cultural, if the team was locally within the same native area or people from across the geographies, globe, US, UK, Australia. And it would also ask that how many women were there in the company, in your team where you closely worked with. So he would be asking about cross-functional team, cross-cultural team, and about your knowledge about the company. What is knowledge about your company or something? So he's going to ask you about that. And it may be possible, it happened with me. He is going to ask you about some low points within your profile. If you have not got good grades, or there may be something, or you have not got good achievements, or you have been stuck in your company for a long, or maybe could be anything, or maybe you have finished your job, and the next interview is after 8 months. So he's going to talk about that, why you don't why you didn't get hired for 8 months, and what was the problem with that. So he's going to ask you about something that is low about your point, and he would not be looking for what answers you are going to make. He would be looking for that how much stressed you are, and whether you flung in answering the questions, where you stammer, or how much is your confidence level. Because most of the times when you are giving the presentation to customer ask you XYZ number of things that you have no clues all about, but you still have to answer them. So he's going to talk about them. I'll just give you an example. I was there in a Irish Royal interview, and I was asked that, when was I lost my patience last? So that may be few other things, but this is a matter of discussion for some other time. Then he would be checking about your communication. It's very much important. He will be checking about whether you use active voice or passive voice, or you are going to use strong words like, I'm never going to do that, I always do these things, I have always done all these things, or maybe some generalist statements he will be talking about. He will be looking for your body language. He will be talking about your confidence. So there are many things he will be looking for, and he would be checking all these things, and he would be asking you open-ended questions. You have to be very careful, because all the things that I have talking about, that what is there in recruiter's mind, so all these things will be very much prominent in, I would say, in open-ended questions. When he's going to throw an open-ended question, this could be make or break, because you have to have very absolutely clear about what you're talking about. And he would also be analyzing that how much you speak. This is important thing. You don't, because if you speak under or you speak over, both are not good. So these are the few things how recruiters do what they are supposed to do. So just be careful about these minds. These are not comprehensive. We will be discussing more about in the next session, but as of now, these are just as an overview. Okay, so next we are going to talk about what makes or breaks a candidate. So there are various stages where you get rejections or you get acceptance, on the contrary. So there are various stages, and now we are going to talk about what are the various stages by that makes or breaks a candidate. The moment you apply for a CV, fortunately, if the CV is good, I'm under this assumption that you are done with those exercise and you have moved to the next level, that your CV has been accepted and you have got a call from a recruiter. So what the first point for make or break is your permissions. Many times you would see that, or not, rather I would say not many times, always, a recruiter, the first question on the recruiter, if you have not mentioned on the CV, is going to ask you about, are you eligible to work in Ireland? This is going to be the first question. If you talk about recruiter from the company or the recruiter from a job consultancy, so job consultancy usually do not prefer candidates who are not on stamp for, because it affects their commissions. So they get more commissions, and sometimes it's mandated from company to get stamp for, because if they can do the other hirings by themselves. So now I'm talking about the call from the company. You get a call from the company as a recruiter. He's going to talk about first permissions. If you talk about that, I have permissions 1G, I have 2 years, this 2 years work visa. Many times small companies or medium companies do not have knowledge about 1G. And when you say that, no, I'm on 1G, but it gives me 2-year work visa, they just don't have understanding. So they just remove that candidate, they send a rejection mail. So what you have to do is you have to tell them that this is a 1G visa, and you have to tell them that this is a legal visa. I can share you the links about this. And instead of mentioning, for example, a recruiters ask you, do you have permissions to work in Ireland? You don't have to go overboard that I have 1G 2 year visa and all that. No, you don't have to go overboard unless specifically asked what visa you have. You just have to say that yes, I am eligible to work in, yes, as of now I am eligible to work in Ireland. Or you can say that yes, for the foreseeable future. Remember the verbiage that I'm using. Yes, for the foreseeable future, I am eligible to work in Ireland. So even if you are on stamp 2, that is starting from May, and if you are intake of September onwards, then you are eligible to work full time, that is 40 hours from May onwards, even on stamp 2. And once in August you finish up your graduation, then you can work, you can take 1G and carry on with that. So first thing is permissions. The second thing that makes or breaks a candidate, the second thing, and this is actually the second thing the recruiter is going to ask, and this is unlike India. In India, they don't talk about salary until at the end. Here, the recruiters talk about, it is the second question that recruiters ask about salary, that what is your expectations. It is always good to have an understanding that the role what you are applying, what is the salary range. You may check Glassdoor for that, but Glassdoor may not be providing the correct, I would say, correct range, because if you check Glassdoor for a salary for a project manager, they would give you around 45 to 65,000. But that's not a true case. I'm talking about last year when I checked for it. So 65,000, sometimes the project manager may get 65,000, but usually it is, I would say, 60 to 80, and may each even range to even higher. So salary expectations. So if you're not in that salary, then they are going to reject it. So you have to tell the salary expectations, and or you can cross ask them that what is your budget. In India, we usually do not ask to the companies that what is your budget, but here it is a common notion. If somebody is asking you that what is your expectations, instead of giving your expectation, you can tell him that what is your budget, by the way. And I'm new to the market, I'm not sure about Irish standards, but and there's no harm in saying that I'm new to the market, because eventually they would come to know that you are new to the market, you're come here for the study. So there's no point in being upfront that I'm new to the market, so I'm not sure about the salary ranges here. What is your budget? They are going to give you a budget, and no matter what budget you get, you can negotiate on that. Always, negotiation is something, is your prerogative. I'm not talking here about how to negotiate, but this is something which we'll talk about in maybe in next session, when we'll talk about the key to the key for a successful job interview. So here we will talk about salaries, and next it would talk about your attitude and culture. So it would check about whether you fit with the culture, with the cultural things within the company and within Ireland, and how is your attitude, your behavior, your stress behaviors, how you work in pressures, how you deal with people, and how you could deal with customers, whether you have experience of dealing with customers or not. So these are comes in all attitude and cultures. And in the last, you will be checked about your competency. And competence is all about technical things that you have learned within your masters, and maybe in your previous job experience that you have learned for. So that you will be checked. And one thing that I would like to say is liking. This is liking is always unconscious. No matter how much competent you are, no matter what attitude you are, no matter what permissions you have, if the person likes you for any reason, usually people like for commonalities in terms of doing the things, commonality in terms of getting anything between two people. So for example, favoring the same rugby team. So it depends. So it is unconscious. I've just kept it over here because many times this liking, the small liking, plays a big role. So it also makes or breaks a thing, because many times for any particular thing, if the interviewer just dislike you, no matter how good you are, he's not going to take. So that would be a break off session. Remember four things that are three, sorry, rather I would say four things about this. The four C's are communication. He's going to talk about communication. You need to be very careful. Whatever you talk about within your interviews, you have to take care of these four C's: communication, care element, cultural element, and competency. These are the four things that makes or breaks a people. Okay, next we just have 10 minutes left, so we are going to hurry up a bit now, and we'll talk about the unimportant things. The unimportant things are like body language, culture, sports, politics. Many times, okay, one thing, very interesting thing. When do you think your interview starts? The moment you enter the room? No. The moment the interviewer asks you the first question? No. So when? Your first, I would say, your interview starts right when somebody starts accompanying you from the elevator. Whenever you are just going to, whenever you will be going to the company and you'll be signing up in their attendance register, somebody from the company will come you back to escort you from the reception. You would be waiting, you would be walking on the staircase or be waiting for the elevator. He will not be quiet that time. He's going to talk about some offline things. Oh, so did you watch the match yesterday? Did you watch the rugby match? Oh, wow. Or maybe it's a very sunny weather today, and yesterday it was blah, 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 and all these things. Or he may ask that, oh, did you hear about the PM's comments about this referendum, this and all that? Anything. He may talk about hurricanes. So your interview does not start when you actually ask the questions. These all things, your interview actually starts the moment you are at the reception. And these unimportant things, these brings liking or dislikings. You have to be very careful about it. These unimportant things, I would say, are very, very important. The moment you go, before you go for any of the interviews, you have to be very careful of these unimportant things in terms of history. If there is a weather element, hurricanes, or maybe you need to have knowledge about wines, movies. For example, I was asked in one of the companies about the Guardians of Galaxy movie, that what was my favorite character in Guardians of Galaxy. And this was something which they would know by default, that everybody watches Guardian of Galaxy or everybody watch Game of Thrones. So there could be any I would say any cross question even at the time of coming to the interview from the ground floor to fourth floor, or maybe going back at the reception. They may ask about what your favorite character. I was asked about what was my favorite character in Guardians of Galaxy. Yes. So you have to take care about movies. You have to take care about their rugby players, football. What are the teams? What are the players whom we are supporting? So just be careful of two times: when you are entering to the room through the elevator, through the staircase, or at the reception, and at the time, the 2 minute that when he is going to see you off outside the company. So these are the 2 30 seconds on 1 minute things where you have to be very careful about it. Okay, and next I will quickly talk about the networking techniques. Most of the times we make mistakes. We connect people on LinkedIn, ask him to meet for a cup of coffee or anything, but it doesn't work. It really doesn't work, because everyone does the same thing. This is not something a good way of doing the network. Rather, you will have to invest with networking with people, invest for a long time. You have to invest in networking on regular basis. What you can do is, there are four things that I would specially recommend. You can join a professional Toastmaster club, PMI club, or any professional club which have meetings on Sundays, Saturdays, or somewhere where they have regular meetings, so that you can meet same set of people again and again. Your college professors, try to make a good network out of them, and just make sure that they are ready to vouch for you, they are ready to refer you, because these college professors are usually local, and these people can definitely refer you in various companies. Build a peer network. Many times we see that we just make network for people who are managers, who are vice president, who are CEOs of the company. This is not enough. It's good to have a peer network itself, because if you have 8 to 10 people in peers, then you will be able to connect with those people, understand that what is their interview experiences, what they are doing, if they are doing something and they are successful, how you can replicate them. And it is not about taking. It's about giving mindset. You have to be a mindset of giving to people. If you would give, only then you can take from them. So if you have a network of peer network of this, then you can make a good networking. And one of the things I would say, there was one of my friend, he made an out of box networking technique, and he started going to church. So on church, all the local, on the Sunday mass, all the local people used to come and used to make great network with people. So on church, he used to get all the Irish people, and he made a great network out of them. Next, I'll quickly talk about resume fatals. We don't have time as of now, and I would just make a note that in the next session, I have my colleague and my friend Malika Tiwari. Many of you must have known her on the Facebook group, and she is a very experienced candidate. She has been in Ireland from 2015. She has been working with Sun Pharma and Novartis, a big pharma giants, and now she's working in Milan as a system analyst, which is one of the pharma and biotechnology company. And she has got a good experience in terms of CVs, corrections, and mock interviews and other things. So in the next session, we are going to this. We'll talk about resume fatal, but we'll more discuss about in the next session about tips and tricks how to make a successful interviews. So me and Malika Tiwari both would be jointly taking this session. Well, we'll be talking about that. What are the things? How to crack an interview? What are the fatal things? How to correct the resume? What is the ideal way of appearing to a job interview? Many things we are going to talk about this. So stay tuned, stay watched for our next session on that. I'll quickly go through the resume fatals. You need to understand one thing, and I will not repeat it again. You are not looking for opportunities. You are an opportunity by yourself. You are an opportunity for people. You are not looking for opportunities. You have seen many people on LinkedIn where they mention that XYZ name, bracket, looking for opportunities. Nobody in the market looks for someone whom nobody wants to take. Nobody would like that. You have to create a way that you would seen as an opportunity for people. Well, I'll quickly go through the 5 points that you need to avoid in the resume. First, people do not stress on the experiences. You have to be detailed on the experiences. Do not show the results. I mean, people not showing the results. Whatever actions you are doing in, you have to show that what actions you did and what results it brought achieve. What results were achieved out of it. You work very hard in the project, but what were the results of the project? You have to bring up the results. Second, try avoiding use the turn off keywords like helped between this, or coordinated between two parties. This coordinate and these things does not make any sense. It does not show that what is our competency, what exactly we did. So just try to avoid these resume fatals. Not mention the nuances of the work. I was yesterday going through one of the resume of one person, and I was one of the key things I found notice that he has mentioned that overview of the work, a high level work, not mentioning the nuances. Go through the job description. If the job description says about your responsibility in detailed order, then you have to mention the nuances of the work. Ideally, the resume should be of 1 page, but if they require, it should go with 2 page, but mention the nuances of the work. Fourth, directionless resume. You did X things, you studied Y, and you are going into Z. For example, you worked into development, you were coding something, you worked management of international business, and you are applying for a marketing. And you are mixing up all these things in the resume. This would never lead you with anything. These is called as directionless resume. You have to make a streamlined. It doesn't matter that if you don't want to do it or you don't want to do it, you can definitely do that. You can switch careers. There's no harm in that. But you have to give a directions that why you moved from development to management, and why after doing management you move into marketing. Or you could show them that you want to take X amount of skills what you learned in management, and now you want to apply those X amount of skills in marketing. So that you can do. So you need to be ensure that you are not giving a directionless resume. And last is ATS check. ATS is automatic tracking of resumes. Big companies, they don't have manual checking, they have automatic tracking. So you have to resume should have those keywords that is required by the ATS. We would talk about this ATS in the next session. So how company decides salary, I think we would discuss more about in the next session. It depends on their own metrics. It depends on economic data. If the inflation is going higher, then they increase the salaries. Living cost and geographies. If the job is in Dublin, and the job is in Galway or in Limerick, then definitely there will be 25% of difference in jobs in salaries. They benchmark with the competitors, they see how much competitors is offering, and they accordingly they offer something. Approval procedures, what are the approval procedures they have within the company? But as a rough estimation, if you are a 0 years of experience, you may get a salary around 30K plus minus 10-20%. If you have a maybe if you have experience up to 5 years, maybe 40 to 60K could be good, and after 5 years the boundary will go beyond. Thank you, everyone. We have got to the last slide on questions and answers. You may post your questions on either on Facebook page, or you can email me, or on the YouTube comments you can post your individual questions. I have sent you my email address. If you have some profile evaluation or you want me to evaluate your resume, then you can send it to me. I may not be able to evaluate for all the resumes, but we are going to have a next session on next Sunday, so that Malika and I will be going to take it jointly, where we will be taking out 5-7 resumes and we'll be showing it to you, that what was the resume, what was the issues with the resume, and what it should look like. And we would completely reinvent one's profile into the other, where he wants to go, what he is and what he desired to go based on the companies and all. So I would suggest you to send me, those who are interested, I would suggest you to send me your resumes or LinkedIn profiles on my email, or in the comment box you can send me a link. And we are going to have the next session on the same time next week, and there's a YouTube channel, Career Ireland. So soon we are going to have a Facebook page, and I'll be sharing my link in the groups already, so we can stay in tune to them. So I'm happy to help. Anything if you want to like me to address in the next session, you can come do the comment box. I'll just repeat, I'll give you a quick overview what we are going to cover in next session. In next session, we'll focus about the job interviews, about how the interviews are conducted, what are tips and tricks, what are the various levels, what are the people involved, like interviewer, recruiter, the big boss, the director, what are their need, concerns, challenges, and what they want from the candidates, and what are the things that you could do to typically crack through the interviews. So it would be about cracking the interviews. This is what we are going to do. So once again, we are 2 minutes overboard, and thanks for joining in. Stay tuned. We'll connect with you all next Sunday, same time. Thank you. Bye-bye.